In Generation 1, Starmie is an incredibly powerful Pokemon. Being a Water and Psychic type gives us great coverage against nearly all types in the game. With a huge speed stat of 115 and a good special stat of 100, Starmie will hit hard and crit often. In Generation 1, your base speed reflects how often you will crit, so with 115 base speed, Starmie will crit 22.46% of the time, so nearly 1 in 4 moves will be a critical hit. The rest of Starmie's stats are also pretty good. With 75 attack and 85 defense, we shouldn't have much trouble with dealing physical damage or taking it either. The only downside is a mediocre 60 base stat in HP. By leveling up, we learn no new moves, which is similar for nearly every Pokemon in Generation 1 that evolves using a stone. So until we get to Cerulean City, we will be stuck with just Tackle, Water Gun and Harden, which isn't great but should get us to Cerulean without any issues. By TM we can get some incredibly powerful moves though, like Surf, Psychic, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Blizzard and Double Edge, though no access to a move like Body Slam early on really affects Starmie's ability to deal with types that resist water moves, especially grass types early on. But now that's out of the way and we've received our Starmie, I decided to name our Starmie Star Us because I thought that was incredibly witty. And after that, we have the first rival fight. By beating the rival in Oak's lab, that guarantees we will face either Jolteon or Flareon. And by beating the optional rival west of Viridian, that will mean that the rival will end up with Jolteon, which is perhaps the hardest for us to fight. At level 5, Eevee doesn't put up much of a fight against our Starmie and falls in just 3 water guns, meaning that we now have to run errands for Professor Oak. Whilst we do that, I'll take some time to address the elephant in the room. So as some of you might have guessed, this is in fact my first Pokemon challenge, so I thought I'd start things off with Starmie for a nice and easy run. A Pokemon that I've used in plenty of Pokemon games over the years because of just how versatile it is. With access to Surf and Psychic makes this starfish incredibly strong. What you're seeing is in fact my second ever run with Starmie and perhaps maybe my 4th or 5th ever solo challenge run in my lifetime. As a result of this, please don't expect the times to be the fastest or the best in the world or even the best on YouTube, because I've got a lot to learn when it comes to speedrunning these games with different Pokemon. So instead, what I'd love for you to do is leave me some comments down below about what you thought of the video, what ideas you have for future Pokemon challenges, or any time saving tricks that you know of and I don't make use of in this video, then please let me know. Now with that out of the way, let's head west of Viridian City to take on the rival so we can guarantee that Jolteon will make an appearance from Silph Co and onwards. Our rival begins this fight with a level 9 Spearow, who goes down in just a few water guns, thankfully never attacking with Peck, though it does manage to land a Leer which reduces our defense, meaning Eevee's attacks will now deal more damage. When Eevee does come out, it starts things off with a sand attack, reducing our accuracy. Great. As a result, we then miss our second water gun whilst Eevee goes for a tail whip, reducing our defense even further. We hit another water gun, but Eevee's attacks are doing a lot of damage now. Luckily we get a crit to take Eevee down to the red. Eevee retaliates to bring us into the red, but we thankfully land our final water gun for the KO. If we'd been a bit more unlucky with our accuracy, or if Spearow had attacked us once, we probably would have lost that fight. After that I head to the mart to get some potions, antidotes and a paralyzed heal, so I don't have to keep going back to the Pokemon Center to heal up and save some time. I thought I'd grab these now as we will be coming up against plenty of poison types soon that could quite easily poison us and slow down our progress. Heading into the Viridian Forest, we grab the hidden antidote on the left hand side of the tree. Then we make our way north to fight the first bug catcher with 2 Caterpies. As you can imagine, nothing in this forest will give Starmie any trouble, so we might as well skip these trainer battles and make our way to Pewter City. Once arriving in Pewter City, I make my way to the gym and don't even bother healing. I don't expect the Rock Gym to give us any trouble. I decide to fight the junior trainer in Brock's gym for a little bit of extra experience, and his Diglett and Sandshrew both face a similar fate, going down to a single water gun each. After the fight, I then save and start our first gym battle with Brock. As you can imagine, with both his Pokemon being rock ground, they take 4 times damage from water and grass moves, so Water Gun's power will go from 40 to 160, meaning Geodude and Onix with their paltry special stat will be an easy one-shot all day long, and give us our first badge at just 7 minutes and 19 seconds. After Brock, we clear through the trainers on Route 3 without any issues and make our way into Mount Moon. We pick up the rare candy on the far east side, then we make our way west to invite the junior trainer for some easy XP. His 2 Radstat and Zubat all go down in just a couple of water guns each, which helps bring us to level 15. We then follow the path and make our way to the mandatory Super Nerd that is blocking access to the fossils. His first Pokemon Grimer goes down to 2 water guns, then his Voltorb comes out and also goes down to 2 water guns. Then finally his Koffing comes out and it goes down in, yep, you guessed it, 2 water guns. After the battle we choose the correct fossil, the Dome Fossil, as we don't want to cause any controversy today on the internet, and then we make our way towards the exit before being caught up by Jesse and James. First up is Ekans, which goes down in just 2 water guns. Thankfully we don't get caught in an endless rap cycle as we do outspeed. Meowth also goes down in 2 water guns, and then Coughing comes out, which actually takes 3 water guns to defeat. After that, we then have rival number 2, who is pretty much just as easy as rival number 1 was, except now we are much stronger. Of course, he starts out with his Spearow again, who is now level 18, up from level 9. It does hit us with a Peck, which does a little bit of damage, and a Leer, which does lower our defense, but goes down in just 3 water guns. We also level up to level 17 and take down the Sandshrew in just 1 water gun. Rattata does get a quick attack in, but does fall to 2 more water guns, and then Eevee comes out, and it takes a critical hit water gun to start things off, hits us with a Growl and a Tackle, but then 2 more water guns finish it off. In hindsight, before doing Nugget Bridge, I probably should have done Misty first so that we could get Bubble Beam and give us some more damage output and more PP as well. We should have saved going back to the Pokemon Center and healing. I then grab the TM for Thunder Wave and make my way back to heal up. Whilst in Cerulean City, I do head out back of this guy's house and grab the hidden rare candy. And then upon returning to the Nugget Bridge, I head north and fight this hiker. He's got a Machop and a Geodude. Machop goes down in just 1 critical hit water gun, and then Geodude will of course go down in a single water gun. The reason I fought this hiker here is because I wanted to get the hidden elixir on the wall just north of him. I decided to teach Thunder Wave to Starmie to help us against the upcoming grass Pokemon. I thought that paralysing them would reduce the amount of times they can hurt us and therefore make the fight easier. Unfortunately, this battle did not turn out that way. I thought if the Oddish was paralysed, I could try and set up with Harden to help raise my attack stat by making use of the badge boost glitch, and then take care of the rest of the Pokemon from there. Unfortunately, it didn't plan out that way, and we do get to the last Oddish and we do actually fall, though we were just 1 attack away from making it successful and not having to take our first reset. I make it to the 3rd Oddish again with a lot more health than we did last time, but I decided to go with the water gun for whatever reason. I don't really know why, because it's going to do less damage than Tackle is. In hindsight, I was a bit of an idiot here and a little bit stubborn, and I probably could have got away with this a lot easier. Instead, I decided to fight this extra trainer just behind the lass, and then try and get a little bit more XP going into the fight. We then try again, and things start off a little bit better. I get Thunder Wave in straight away, it goes for an Absorb, and it takes around 5 to 6 HP from us. It's then fully paralysed, and I just keep going with Tackle. Eventually, the 3rd Tackle manages to knock it out, and we get onto Pidgey, who goes down in just a water gun and a Tackle. Unfortunately, the Tackle does miss, and then Pidgey does manage to get a Sand Attack in. I do think this is the end, but thankfully we'd managed to get 2 more Tackles in to take it down into the red, and then finally we managed to finish it off with a water gun after missing 1 thanks to that Sand Attack. After saving Bill and getting the SS ticket, we make our way to Misty. We start things off with a Thunder Wave to paralyse the Staryu to reduce the amount of damage it does to us, and then we decide to set up 6 Hardens, which will raise our attack stat by 12.5% for each one that we do. This is as a result of the badge boost glitch and us having Brock's badge already, which boosts our attack stat. 2 tackles bring the Staryu into red health, and then a final tackle knocks it out. We then move on to the Starmie and continue to keep using tackle until the point it gets a little bit pointless, as a result of Misty continuing to use X Defense and Harden. In the end, we managed to finish it off with just a couple water guns to get the victory and also claim our 2nd badge of the run. After beating Misty, she will give us TM11, which teaches us Bubble Beam, which is a 65 base power water move, which is a big upgrade over Water Gun. For some reason, I do get rid of Thunder Wave here, which in hindsight I should have kept for a little bit longer. I should have just got rid of Water Gun, but I was thinking I could probably use Water Gun and Bubble Beam to keep me going with more PP, and meaning I would have to visit Pokemon Centers less often. After Misty, we make our way south to Vermilion City, and we head to the SS Anne. Once getting on the SS Anne, I make my way upstairs and head towards the gentleman's room with the rare candy. He leads this fight with a Growlithe, which we outspeed and take down with our newly acquired Bubble Beam. Ponyta then follows Growlithe and follows the same fate as Growlithe, falling to another Bubble Beam. After the battle, I grab the rare candy, heal up, and get ready for our next rival battle with our rival Jelly. First things first, Spearow comes out and it's only gained 1 level since the last battle. It's now level 19, and of course it goes down in just 1 Bubble Beam. Rattata and Sandshrew follow a similar fate, and then Eevee falls to a critical hit Bubble Beam, meaning this was just a one-shot sweep for every single Pokemon on his team. We then head upstairs and the creepy captain gets a back rub from our 10-year-old character, and then we get the HM cut, and then we leave the SS Anne for good. I make my way over to the Pokemon fan club to get the bike voucher so we can pick that up when we return to Cerulean City, make my way over to Diglett Cave, and then I dig back to Cerulean City from there. Unfortunately, in Pokemon Yellow, you can't dig back to Cerulean from the Pokemon fan club house. And this is where this run takes a massive turn for the worst against this junior trainer. She has 2 Oddishes and 2 Bellsprouts. Things go pretty well against the first Oddish. We managed to get it down into the red before it manages to paralyze us. Then we managed to take it out only losing 10 HP. The next Bellsprout comes out and it's not really any problems. We managed to take that one down without losing any HP whatsoever. Then the third Pokemon that comes out is another Oddish. and this is where everything seems to take a big turn for the worse. We'd start off with a critical hit bubble beam, so things seem to be going quite well from the beginning, but then unfortunately it just seems to keep using absorb and keep getting health back, which meaning we can't quite finish it off without getting another critical hit, and then we take our third reset. I reset the game and then I tried to think of a different way to take on this junior trainer. I deliberate for a little bit about what move to choose, and then eventually I do settle on Harden. I did think to myself that maybe I could get away with using the badge boost glitch to help raise our attack stat, and then I could sweep these Oddish and Bellsprout using tackle. Unfortunately that doesn't plan out that way, because even though my tackle does do quite a lot of damage, I am paralysed, and as a result I end up being fully paralysed twice while the Oddish continues to heal itself and leave me with just a few HP. The next Pokemon comes out, the next Bellsprout, and then of course it just uses Wrap because it outspeeds me, and then as a result I have to reset once more. After this fight I then try again and I lose to the last in a very similar way, this time losing to Wrap and Poison Powder, and then again I try once more, and then I get to the next Bellsprout and I do fall to Poison Powder and Wrap once again. After this I decide to just give it all up and go train. I head south back to Vermilion City and beat as many of these trainers as I possibly can. I thought that getting as much XP as I possibly could would help me and then give me a better chance at being able to either 2-shot or 3-shot these Pokemon. I then make my way over to the east of Vermilion City and fight the trainers over there. None of the trainers over here are any particular trouble, with the two youngsters providing a good amount of XP and not providing any challenge whatsoever. I do run into a gambler over here who has a Bellsprout and an Oddish, and I start to fear the worst after he paralyzes our Starmie. Thankfully I managed to beat him first time without resetting, and upon seeing that it gives me a bit of confidence, so I head back to Cerulean to finally take on this female junior trainer. Unfortunately it doesn't go as planned and we do actually come back and take another reset. That is now our 7th reset of this run. I try again straight away and head straight into the fight. This time I start out just by going with tackle, and thankfully this first Oddish doesn't manage to paralyze us, which gives us a big boost. The next Bellsprout then goes for a sleep powder, which fails, and then the third Pokemon, their second Oddish, does land a poison powder, which means we can no longer be paralyzed or put to sleep. After finally defeating that junior trainer, we managed to make our way into Rock Tunnel, where there is a few more grass types waiting for us. There is a junior trainer in there that has an Oddish and a Bulbasaur who does manage to paralyze us, but thankfully we managed to power on through and get the victory. Up next is another junior trainer towards the end of the tunnel, which has a Meowth, an Oddish and a Pidgey. Of course the Oddish does land its Stun Spore and does paralyze us. Thankfully this time we don't have any problems with paralysis, and we manage to break through and use a couple more tackles to take it out. And then we take the following Pidgey down without any issues. After the absolute nightmare leading us from Cerulean City to Lavender City, we do manage to finally make our way over to Celadon, and now this is where the run can really start to speed up for Starmie. I grab the PP up and the HM for Fly, and then I head to the department store to get 2 Poké Dolls. One to get the Mimic TM, and one for skipping the Ghost Marowak at the top of the Pokemon Tower. I then grab 2 fresh waters so we can grab the TM for Ice Beam, and one for the Saffron Guards. I head into the Rocket Hideout to grab some valuables, including a rare candy and the TM for Double Edge. It's a 100 base power physical move, though it does deal recoil damage, it will definitely come in handy. After that I then make my way over to Saffron City to get the Psychic TM. Now our move pool consists of Psychic, Bubble Beam, Ice Beam and Double Edge. I feel a lot more confident to take on Surge. Starting off the fight, I go for a Psychic, as it's now our most powerful move with our same type attack bonus. Lieutenant Surge replies with an X speed, so now he outspeeds us, and then he just goes for Mega Kick, so we take him down in just another Psychic. A pretty easy third badge. Surge's badge also gives us the ability to fly, so now we head back to Celadon City to take on Erica's gym. Once we get to Erica's gym, I decide to go on a little bit of a rampage with Starmie. After the defeats and the resets that we suffered to many Bellsprouts and Oddishes early in the run, I thought I'd take this opportunity to get some nice easy XP. Now that we have Ice Beam and Psychic, we can pretty much one-shot every single grass type and poison type in this gym. So it makes training in here pretty safe and also nice and easy. Of course, the trainers in here use very similar Pokemon to Erica anyway, like Weeping Bells, like Glooms, and it's nice to see that we can either use Psychic to knock them out or Ice Beam. Psychic will obviously deal the most damage because we have that same type attack bonus to take advantage of, and that will deal that little bit more against the poison types. And if a Pokemon does survive, Psychic also gives us the option of lowering its special at the same time. Of course, Ice Beam can also freeze, which basically guarantees a win, so that is also a great option as well. So now that my rampage is over, it's time to face Erica. Of course, Erica opens things up with her Tangela. I go for Psychic, forgetting that Tangela is a pure grass type. After realising my mistake and taking about a quarter of my HP from Mega Drain, I take it down with an Ice Beam. Up next is Weeping Bell, and Psychic doesn't quite get the KO, and then Weeping Bell manages to put us to sleep and heal itself with the Super Potion. After that, it's a critical hit Razor Leaf, and that takes us out.
For my second attempt, I go for Ice Beam straight away to see how much damage that does. It looks to be doing a little bit more than Psychic, but not as much as I'd like, so we do take a little bit of damage from Vine Whip. Up next is Weeping Bell, and we managed to get a critical hit on that to take that out in one shot. And then up last is Gloom, and we managed to nearly take it out with Psychic, but thankfully Erica only uses a Super Potion, which only delays our win. After beating Erica and getting a little bit more cash from her and her trainers in her gym, I then head back to Celadon Department Store to pick up some more calciums and feed them to Starmie. And then after that I make my way over to Pokemon Tower to begin our next rival battle. Our rival starts things off by sending out his Fearow first, who is now evolved and level 25. Now that we have Ice Beam, we have a super effective option to take care of that, and that levels us up to level 32. Shelter is up next, and thanks to its terrible special defense, that falls to a Psychic. Vulpix then comes out and falls to a Bubble Beam, and Sandshrew follows a very similar fate. Up last is Eevee, and that takes a very nasty critical hit Double Edge to fall as well. Now that we've beaten the rival, we can head upstairs, grab some vitamins, the rare candy, and some nuggets along the way, and then we can use the Poké Doll to skip the Ghost Marowak fight, meaning that we never have to go to the Rocket Game Corner to get the Silph Scope. If you guys aren't happy with me skipping the Rocket Hideout and making use of the Poké Doll trick, then of course you can let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll make sure to do that in future runs. One thing I'll be doing in future runs, thanks to GameHook, is disabling Lieutenant Surge's Trashcan puzzle, as that can waste a lot of time and also affect a Pokemon's final time at the end of the run. At the top of the tower we have another battle with Jesse and James. They start things off with their Meowth, who falls to a critical hit Psychic. Arbok then follows and then falls to a super effective Psychic, and then Weezing comes out last and of course, you may have guessed it, falls to a super effective Psychic. After beating Jesse and James, we can then help Mr. Fuji get back to his house safe and sound. Once we get back to his house and we have a little chat with him, he will then give us the Pokéflute to go and wake up Snorlax. So immediately after getting the Pokéflute, I head west to Celadon City, wake up the Snorlax and head on to Cycling Road. I then take the opportunity to train against a few of the bikers, as a lot of their Pokemon are poison or fighting types and therefore weak to Psychic. Whilst in the grass on Cycling Road, I also grab another rare candy to save for later. After leaving Cycling Road, we make our way into Fuchsia City and I immediately head to the Safari Zone. Obviously the Safari Zone is full of wondrous things, great Pokemon and also great items. First things first, I grabbed a Carbos and then I picked up a Max Potion as well. Of course I grabbed the Full Restore to save for later and a Protein. Then I also grabbed the Gold Teeth so we can get the Strength HM. We then head inside the house to get the HM for Surf, as that is going to be Starmie's most powerful water move with a base power of 95. I then head outside of the house and dig back to Fuchsia City using Charmander, and then head over to the Warden to give him his teeth back. Of course he gives us the HM for Strength, and I teach that to Charmander as well, and then we can make use of it immediately, push the boulder out the way and get ourselves another rare candy. After that we then make our way over to Koga's Poison Gym, and in this gym it is full of a lot of jugglers, and these jugglers for some reason seem to have plenty of Psychic types. Drowsy is quite bulky defensively as well as specially defensively, so using Surf and Double Edge, I can't really quite make my mind up which is the better option against these. I go for Surf against the Kadabra, even though that was the wrong option, as Kadabra does have very high special, therefore Double Edge would be the better option there. I then realise my mistake and finish it off with a Double Edge, and I take the final Drowsy down with 2 more Surfs, as I'm starting to take quite a bit of recoil damage now. After that I then decide to take on the optional Tamer, as he actually does have poison types. He starts off with an Arbok which falls to a Psychic, and up next is his Sandslash. Being a ground type, that falls to a quick and easy Surf, and then his final Pokemon is another Arbok which falls to another Psychic. Similar to in Erica's gym, I decided to fight some optional trainers to get a little bit more experience. With Starmie only being level 36 and Koga's Ace being level 50, I thought it would be a good opportunity to get as much XP in as I can, seeing that we resist most of the moves of the trainers in this gym. Just before Koga is a mandatory juggler with a Drowsy and a Hypno, I decided to act on the side of caution as I didn't want to heal and run back to the Pokemon Center, so I decided to save beforehand. His first Drowsy comes out and we take it down with a critical hit Surf, so that was no problem whatsoever. I decide to go for a Double Edge against Hypno to see how much damage it does, and then I try for a Surf to see how much damage that does. They're doing around a similar sort of damage, so I decide to finish it off with Surf in the end, just so I don't have to take any more recoil damage. After that, it's then time to fight Koga, so I decide to heal up and get myself ready for the fight. Koga starts things off with his level 44 Venonat, who goes down to a super effective critical hit Psychic. His second Venonat follows the exact same fate, a critical hit Psychic. His level 48 Venonat falls to a regular Psychic, so the critical hits didn't matter whatsoever. And then finally his Venomoth comes out, which also faces a similar fate to the first 2 Venonats, falling to a critical hit Psychic. Once we get the Soul Badge, that actually raises our speed and not our defense, unlike it says in the game. And it's Lieutenant Surge's badge that actually raises your defense and not your speed, so they got that completely around the wrong way in Generation 1, but are you really surprised? After that we then make our way over to Silphco and find the mandatory trainer to grab the card key. We then head back north and take the second door on our left to head inside and pick up the protein, so that we can slightly increase Starmie's attack stat. After that, we head downstairs to floor number 3 and grab ourselves a calcium. Then we head upstairs to the 10th floor to grab a carbos and a rare candy. Once all of that is done, we then head back to the 3rd floor to fight this grunt, who doesn't really put up much of a fight. He's only got Eradicate, so of course we take that down in a critical hit serve, taking a little bit of damage from quick attack. Hypno then comes out, and then it just about survives a double edge in the orange. It then disables Ice Beam, but that doesn't really make much difference because we're going to finish it off with another double edge. And then finally this grunt has another Eradicate which falls to another surf, no critical hit needed this time.
After the battle, we use the card key to open up the door, and then we make our preparations for Rival 5-all. I quickly use a super potion on Starmie, save the game, and get ready for one of the toughest fights in the game. Our rival leads with a Sand Slash, and being a ground type is going to fall quite easily to a super effective Surf. Up next is his Ninetales, who's quite specially bulky and just about survives with just a slither of HP from the first Surf. He gets off a Tail Whip, which lowers our defense, but also temporarily raises all of our other stats just a little bit. Cloyster then falls to 2 Psychics thanks to its terrible special defense, and Kadabra goes down to a single double edge. Jolteon is where things get a little bit complicated. I go with the double edge to try and get some good physical damage in against him, but unfortunately he retaliates with a Thundershock, and then gets the paralysis, and then after that he outspeeds us to take us down with a Pin Missile. If he didn't get the paralysis, we wouldn't have had to reset here, and it would have been a nice easy fight. On my second attempt I make it to Jolteon with no issues, but he manages to take us out with a critical hit Thundershock. On attempt number 3 I decide to go for Surf against Kadabra so I don't take as much recoil damage. 2 Surfs manage to take it out, and we only take a little bit of damage from Confusion. I then decide to go for a double edge, and it just about survives. Thankfully it misses its Pin Missile and we can take it out with another double edge. It only cost us a couple resets and it wasn't that difficult in the end. I was expecting we might have to use some rare candies to get through this fight, but as always we want to save our rare candies for as late as we possibly can. Of course this could have been a little bit more consistent if maybe we'd used 3 or 4 rare candies to get us up to about level 43, and then we'd probably easily outspeed and one-shot most of his team. After this fight you then get pounced on by Jesse and James, and as always with their poison types they're not really going to provide much of a threat against our Starmie. This time they decide to switch things up and lead with Weezing, who falls to a Psychic. Up next is Arbok, who falls to a critical hit Psychic just to add some insult to injury, and then Meowth comes out last, and of course he has no chance of surviving another Psychic. Giovanni leads with the Nidorino, who isn't going to survive a single Psychic from our super buff Starmie. Up next is Persian, who takes his Surf pretty well, surviving in the red, but then we get the critical hit just after. It would have been better if we got that the other way round. After Persian is Rhyhorn, and of course he has no chance against a 4-time super effective Surf. And then Giovanni finally brings out his ace Pokemon Nidoqueen, who falls to a critical hit Surf. I don't think that mattered because our Starmie is one strong starfish. After we take care of Giovanni, we then make our way over to Saffron City and head to the Mimic's house. We grab the nugget that is on her desk next to her computer, and then we grab the TM for Mimic itself, which will definitely come in use later on. After that we then head over to Sabrina's gym to fight her and take her on in a battle of Psychics versus Psychics. In Pokemon Yellow, Sabrina leads with an Abra. Of course we take it out with the double edge as it has such terrible defense. It is level 50 though, but it doesn't make a difference. Kadabra on the other hand does manage to survive a double edge and get off a Kinesis. And then finally Sabrina's Alakazam comes out. A critical hit from double edge takes Alakazam all the way down into the orange, and then it uses a Reflect, so I quickly switch over to Surf to finish it off. After getting the 6th badge we then make our way over to Cinnabar Island. And once we arrive, we head into the Pokemon Mansion. We can pick up a Calcium and an Iron, and then we make our way over to open up the door so that we can jump off the edge and thankfully survive. Once down here, we pick up another Vitamin, which is a Carbos, make our way downstairs to pick up the Blizzard TM, 2 rare candies, and of course the secret key. Being a water type, we have no need for the Solar Beam TM. After that, we then dig out and make our way over to Blaine. Of course, the trainers in his gym aren't going to be a problem, so we skip them and make our way straight onto Blaine. Things start off really well for the hot-headed Quizmaster, who manages to land a critical hit quick attack with his Ninetales. We retaliate with a Surf, dealing around 60% of Ninetales' HP. We then outspeed and take out the Fox with another Surf. Even though we're 9 levels lower, we still outspeed and take the horse into the red. Rapidash then wastes some time with Fire Spin, but falls to another Surf. Up last is Arcanine. Surf deals just over half to Arcanine, who strikes back with a Flamethrower, dealing 28 HP, but despite our 12 level gap, we outspeed and finish off the doggo with another Surf. After getting our 7th badge from Blaine, which increases our special stat, we then use Dig to head back to the Pokemon Center. We then fly to Viridian City, heal up, and make our way to Giovanni. Up first is Dugtrio. We manage to outspeed and take him down with a Surf. Next up is Persian. Our first Surf takes the oversized cat into the orange, but he retaliates, dealing huge damage with a critical hit slash to take us down to 45 HP. We then get a crit to take Persian down. That would have been a lot better the other way around. Next up is Nidoqueen, and she survives our Surf in the red. She goes for Thunder, but it misses, and we make it onto Nidoking. Nidoking survives the Surf and then takes us out with a Thunder for our 11th reset of the run. Before the next fight, I take this time to use some rare candies on Starmie. I feel like our really low level is what's holding us back here. It should help us deal more damage and also take a little bit more damage too. Dugtrio is exactly the same as last time and still a one-shot with Surf, but we now deal a little bit more damage with our Surf to Persian. Unfortunately though, it's still not quite enough. Thankfully Giovanni just uses their guard spec and we survive unscathed. Somehow Nidoqueen still survives the Surf with a slither of HP, but Giovanni isn't in the mood to win and uses another guard spec. Next up is Nidoking, and no Thunder this time, as Surf manages to one-shot him and take him out. Then last out is Rhydon, who stands absolutely no chance against the Surf, and there was also a crit just to rub some salt into the wounds. After Giovanni, we then head west of Viridian City to take on the final rival battle before the Pokemon League. Judging by the fact that we took a reset against Giovanni and all of his Pokemon except one are weak to our water attacks, I was expecting this fight to be a little bit tricky too. First up is Sandslash, who falls to a Surf. No problems there. Next up is Execute, who still hasn't evolved, so it's an easy one-shot with Ice Beam. After that, Ninetales then comes out and manages to get 2 quick attacks in, as I accidentally use Ice Beam against it first, then realizing my mistake, and I switch to Surf. Cloyster then comes out, and the 1 in 256 glitch strikes, and we miss our 100% accurate Psychic, and then he lands his 55% accurate Supersonic, but then we take the Cloyster down with a critical hit Psychic. I decided to go for Surf against Kadabra, as we're already pretty beaten up, and I don't want to take any recoil damage, but he survives with like 1 HP and hits us with a Psychic, which leaves us with a very nice amount of HP. Another Surf takes Kadabra down and we level up to level 50 for Jolteon. I decided to go with Surf as I thought Double Edge would be a 2-shot anyway, and I didn't want to take any recoil damage. But Jolteon goes for Thunder Wave, and now that he outspeeds, he lands a Thunder and takes us out. Attempt number 2 goes way better. We only take 1 quick attack from Ninetales, no confusion against Cloyster, and we make it all the way to Jolteon, just losing 9 HP. Surf gets a crit, taking Jolteon into the red, but he retaliates with a critical hit Pin Missile. In Gen 1, if a multi-turn attack gets a crit, all of the attacks crit. Thankfully, he only lands 3, and we take him down with another Surf. Next up is Victory Road. There's no mandatory trainers in here, so we've grabbed the rare candy and the full restore and then make our way to the Indigo Plateau. After depositing our HM Pokemon, I grab some full restores from the mart and then teach Thunderbolt to Starmie. With the majority of Lorelei's Pokemon being part water type, it makes sense to make use of Thunderbolt as it will deal more damage than Psychic will. Just before heading inside, I make sure to save the game, then we can head down the stairs and begin our first battle against the Elite Four with Lorelei. Lorelei's first Pokemon is Dugong. Our Thunderbolt does just over half HP, then Dugong uses Aurora Beam, lowering our attack stat, but slightly boosting our other stats like our special, which we definitely will make use of. Next up is Cloyster, who survives with a slither of HP, but Lorelei just uses a Super Potion and we can take it down with another Thunderbolt. Slowbro is up next and our Thunderbolt takes it well into the orange. It fully paralyzes the Slowbro so it can't attack, and we take it down with another Thunderbolt. Jinx has terrible defense, but we don't have any physical attacks, so we need another Surf to take it down. Up last is Lapras. Our Thunderbolt deals what looks like exactly half HP. Lapras then hits Matt with a Body Slam to take us to 60 nice HP, and another Thunderbolt wins us the battle. After Lorelei, we move on to Bruno. And out of courtesy, I decide to save before the battle, even though realistically, he's not going to be able to touch us. He's got rock types and fighting types, and we're super effective against both of those types, so I don't expect any trouble from Bruno. Bruno leads with his first Onix, who falls to a 4-time super effective Surf. Hitmonchan is out next and falls to Psychic. Hitmonlee then follows the same fate as Hitmonchan, and then for his next Onix, I can't even be bothered to switch to Surf, so Psychic takes it out. Then last is his Machamp, the only Pokemon that might survive a Psychic, but we get a critical hit and win the fight in about 20 seconds. We level up to level 52 and then we make our way into Agatha's room. In hindsight, I probably should have used an Ether here in case something went wrong, but I completely forgot. I make sure to save beforehand because Agatha can cause all sorts of problems with confusion and poison and all sorts of nonsense. Agatha leads with her first Gengar. Psychic deals just over half of Gengar's health, then it uses Substitute, which wastes one of my PP for Psychic. Gengar then strikes back with Mega Drain, taking just under a third of my HP before going down to another Psychic. My 100% accurate Psychic misses once again against Golbat. Thankfully Golbat's Toxic fails and we take it down with a critical hit Ice Beam. Psychic nearly one-shots the Haunter, but it only retaliates with a Lick that fails, then I finish it off with an Ice Beam. Psychic then one-shots Arbok, and then Agatha's final Gengar comes out. Our Psychic does great damage and also gets the special drop. Luckily for us, Gengar's Hypnosis misses and another Psychic wins us the fight.
We got quite lucky against Agatha and we didn't have to deal with any confusion or sleep tactics, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now it's time for Lance the Dragon Master. The Elite Four has been incredibly easy for Starmie so far, with nobody really giving us any trouble, and the only member of the Elite Four who was actually able to deal some substantial damage was Lorelei. And I'm not really expecting Lance to be much different, as we have super effective moves against all of his Pokemon. Lance leads with his Gyarados, so Thunderbolt is an easy one-shot here. Up next is his first Dragonair. It survives on what must be 1 HP from Ice Beam, and it hits back with Thunderbolt, dealing over a third. The next Dragonair survives Ice Beam too and wastes some time with a Hyper Potion. After surviving our next Ice Beam, it hits us with a Hyper Beam, leaving us with just 36 HP. A crit would have ended us there. Next up is Aerodactyl, who stands no chance against a Surf, and then Dragonite is up last, who is 4 times weak to Ice, but survives an Ice Beam. Lance heals up Dragonite with a Hyper Potion, and then our next Ice Beam crits for the one-shot. I honestly thought Lance was going to be so much easier than that. Perhaps I should have taught Blizzard before the fight, as it's 90% accurate in Gen 1, and probably would have one-shot all of his dragons. If his Dragonite had just attacked us at the end, he could have easily won that fight, but he decided to go for that Hyper Potion, which kind of saved us there. After the fight, I make sure to teach Blizzard to Starmie, as I want to deal as much damage as I can against the champion's Exeggutor. I also make sure that I teach Mimic to Starmie and replace Thunderbolt for that, because I want to mimic the Sandslash's Earthquake, as that will be super effective against the Jolteon, and it can also deal huge physical damage against the Alakazam if we need it. With a new adjusted move pool, I'm feeling pretty confident going into this fight. The only reason for keeping Thunderbolt would have been to use against Cloyster, but I'm pretty sure Psychic will deal more than enough damage against Cloyster, and I don't expect it to deal pretty much anything to us back, so there's no point keeping hold of Thunderbolt. So with that out the way, it's time for the final fight against the champion. He leads with Sandslash, and I get a bit trigger happy here, going for a Surf before realising my mistake and then resetting so I can try again. On attempt number 2, I take things a little bit slower and I actually manage to mimic the correct move this time, but Sandslash manages to poison us with Poison Sting. I take it down with Surf and move on to Alakazam, who I'm expecting to be pretty easy now we have a physical move. Alakazam survives an Earthquake with just under half HP and deals huge damage with a critical hit Psychic, leaving us with just over a third after 2 Pokemon. After taking that big hit from Psychic, we then finish off Alakazam with an Earthquake. Exeggutor then comes out and survives Blizzard, then it manages to land a Leech Seed. Exeggutor survives the second Blizzard, which drains our HP even more. That Poison and Leech Seed combination really is a death sentence for Starmie. The critical hit from Earthquake at the end comes a little bit too late for this battle. Up next is Cloyster, who has terrible special, so will take huge damage from Psychic, but the damage from Poison, Leech Seed, and then Cloyster's Spike Cannon is enough to take us down and lose us the battle. Attempt number 3 goes as bad as number 1. I used some rare candies before the fight, but I mimicked the wrong attack from Sandslash, so it's another reset. For my 4th attempt, I forget to use the rare candies again, but this time after we mimic Earthquake, Poison Sting doesn't poison us, so we can take Sandslash down with only minimal HP lost. After Sandslash, we have Alakazam again. Unfortunately, I panicked and I go for Surf. Luckily, it got a crit, but if that was an Earthquake crit, it probably would have one-shot the Alakazam. He retaliates with a Psychic, leaving us with just over 2/3, and thankfully no special drop. I then finished him off with another Earthquake to move on to Exeggutor. I go for Blizzard turn 1 and it drops him into the orange. He then goes for Leech Seed again, as it's his only grass move, so he will always use Leech Seed. He once again survives our second Blizzard, so we lose a little bit more HP to Leech Seed. Next up is Cloyster, who takes about half from our Psychic. We then take a little bit of damage from Leech Seed, and then 2 hits with Spike Cannon leaves us with 69 HP again. Another Psychic takes the Cloyster down, and we can move on to Ninetales for the first time. Ninetales survives the Surf, so we can take more damage from Leech Seed. Perfect. Ninetales then goes for a Tail Whip, which lowers our defense, but will raise all of our other stats by 12.5%. Then finally is Jolteon. I go for Earthquake, and it crits, taking the Jolteon down in 1 hit and winning us the run. Starmie clocks in with a speed of 1 hour, 32 minutes and 43 seconds. Starmie managed to do this with just 15 resets and a game time of 5 hours and 30 minutes. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this attempt at a solo run with Starmie. I think that if you were to train more before coming into contact with any grass types, like the Lass by Bill's house or the junior trainer east of Cerulean, and some of the trainers in Rock Tunnel, then maybe Starmie might have avoided a lot of time wasting and some resets there. I think if I were to do this run again and after a bit more practice, I think I could easily get Starmie closer to that 1 hour mark, maybe around 1 hour 15. The only issue with Starmie is how slow it levels up, because it's in the slow leveling group, and its lack of any useful way to defeat grass types before even getting to Celadon. If Starmie had access to Body Slam on the SS Anne, I imagine the beginning of this game would have been so much smoother and so much quicker. Anyway guys, if you've got any requests for future runs or any advice, feel free to leave them in the comments down below and I'll make sure to reply to each and every one. Hopefully this is the first of many Pokemon runs. I'm looking at some Pokemon Crystal runs and Pokemon Emerald runs in the future as well, and maybe even some Fire Red, Leaf Green runs too. But thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.